Okay, so, well, it might look like I'm about to go fight the next boss. I'm actually not just yet. It would make me so happy if somebody would summon me and we could engage in jolly cooperation, but it's just not gonna happen. There's an optional area over this way that I want to visit. Though I don't really want that message always popping up. Alright, this little sub-area kind of sucks. As you can see, there are many men with guns. These gunmen actually hurt quite a bit. Fortunately, they do seem to have a bit of damage fall off from a range, so it's not a complete mess, but it's still a pretty big mess. There's also dogs. Of course there's dogs. I will loot all the corpses later, but for now it's more important that I take off at least some of the suppressing fire. I would say that the most effective way to get through this area is to just shoot people. The reason for this is the fact that all of the enemies here except the dogs drop bullets. Firing a gun has very little commitment to the action that you're doing, unlike a melee attack. And these guys aren't particularly durable, so if you're persistent, then you'll probably be okay. The real issue comes from when they're all clumped together, because then you just get a withering hail of bullets, and they all hurt really bad, and you can barely do anything. I'll probably show off bone marrow ash at some point. In fact, I don't believe there's any poisoners in this area, so... this is definitely a good area to farm bullets if you're confident in your ability to clear it quickly and safely. The workshop tower that we visited last time has benefits over this because it's a little bit less out of the way. I honestly think it's an easier area overall, and the enemies are a bit more clustered together. Also, there's no dogs. And so are you! This is Hemwick Charnel Lane. This is an optional area. However, I would be very surprised if many people actually made it through the entire game without coming here at least once. It's also a slightly noisy area. The primary enemies here are Hemwick hags. They are not really any different from the usual hunter mobs. They just make different noises, and they have slightly different weapons. If you start feeling some Resident Evil 4 flashbacks here, I don't blame you. Now that we're in a more rural area, the connection is sort of even more pronounced.
Do you hear the graveyard murmurs? Then it's almost time. Oh, I can't wait. I just can't wait.
Me neither. This is a hole, by the way. Don't fall in it. Holes are a bad time. Lovely. I'm not really sure what they're intending to do with this desiccated body. Gah! Alright. The hags that throw Molotovs are easily the most dangerous enemy in this area. They have a seemingly endless supply, and they can throw them a good deal faster than we can. So I'm going to show you something. I'm going to use a bone marrow ash. Essentially, this superpowers our next bullet, which in turn one-shots the enemy. For a player that likes to use guns, bone marrow ash is really helpful. It can actually, against certain enemies, skyrocket your gun damage to leagues beyond that what your melee weapon would be able to accomplish. I didn't even know there were two ways up here. This tree is completely impervious to fire. I am more than happy to make the trade to use the bone marrow ash. Those Molotov throwing hags are a menace. Whoop, slow down. This is also a great place to come if you're having trouble with some of the bosses in the Cathedral Ward area, because the normal enemies aren't that much stronger, but you'll start finding twin bloodstone shards. This will let you increase the power of your weapons far above, honestly, where they would probably be at this point otherwise. I feel like plunging attacks in this game are actually a little bit better than they have been. The hit detection seems more generous, and there's also the fact that you can simply rally off the fall damage. I tell you what. Many despicable birds. That's about the only time those crows can be threatening. I mean, there's also the possibility that they take you by surprise. Like this guy. I thought he was dead. Before you proceed, be sure to hit this elevator. It serves as a very nice shortcut. The two-handed stance is not very good for close quarters combat. This giant appears to be somewhat special, and I can't really say why. He's the only one that I know of that does the "Why you?" yell. Also, he has backup. He also does a ton of damage if he hits. Well, the deal with the headstones is that this place is called Charnel Lane, so I believe that in times where there is not some sort of apocalyptic plague of beasts, this is where they send their dead. Rather nice view here. They can keep that combo going for a long time. I underestimated that. Well, then don't step in the fire. That wasn't my fault. Lady. Come on. There's some more executioners here. They're the toughest enemies you'll find. Except for dogs, of course. They're tough enough that I don't want to take on more than one at a time. It's really better just to use bullets on these guys. They give you quite the window. that third one come from? Why are dogs so awful? Dogs will occasionally drop twin bloodstone shards, so if you're in the mood for farming, you can come here, but it's a little dangerous. I mean, thanks to From, I'm terrified of dogs. That's not actually true. I love dogs, just not ones in these games. Carefully. Our reward for coming all the way out here is the aptly named and placed Lake Rune. Before we move on, opening up this gate will actually give us a pretty straight shot from here right back to the lamp if we so desire. Alright, this is a recipe for disaster, and I've been burned here many times before. It's best to wait for these patrolling hags to come down before engaging the executioner. They'll all aggro at once because this game hates you, but it's much easier to take them on in this open space than the closed-in one. The execution also seems to have lost interest. I really can't emphasize enough that if you have the opportunity to sneak up on an enemy, you should really take it. The executioners are unique in the fact that their axe, when it's lowered like that, can block damage. Well, this looks lovely. Alright, one more time for posterity. Maybe somebody will want some help. Maybe. I definitely picked a really good place to wait. Now, I assume that the whole "a hunter is never alone" thing is supposed to be encouragement, but to me it always sounds kind of ominous. Oh, to hell with it. This is the next boss. The Witch of Hemwick. However, that does not appear to be the actual boss. No, the actual boss is over here. The witch will continually summon these weird glowing-eyed ladies, and you can pretty safely ignore them, to be honest. All of their attacks are fairly heavily telegraphed. Just to make things interesting, the witches can teleport. However, there's a fly in the ointment here. There's more than one witch, and the game isn't really kind enough to tell you that. As the fight goes on, they'll start summoning more and more of the stalkers. They remain to be pretty unimpressive. A good way to lose them, if you are so inclined, is to simply come up here. That tends to confuse their pathing a little bit. When one witch goes down, things tend to go a little hairy. The remaining witch starts using some interesting techniques. That blue bolt that she fires will bind you in place, which is pretty problematic. And for reasons that I don't really understand, the witches seem to be able to revive each other. They can also do this, which is really unpleasant. Please get off of me. It's a weird fight, to be perfectly honest. It's a really weird fight. It's not very hard, though. It can get really messy in the final phase. If you get unlucky with some placements, get hit by a couple of bindings. And to top it all off, I still just don't understand very well how the multiple witch mechanic works. Oh, also sort of a random question, but was Among the Sleep any good? I've always been sort of peripherally interested in that. That's our prize. The Rune Workshop Tool. Runesmith Carol, student of Bergenworth, transcribed the inhuman utterings of the Great Ones into what are now called Carol runes. The hunter who retrieves this workshop tool can etch Carol runes into the mind to attain their wondrous strength. Provost Willem would have been proud of Carol's runes, as they do not rely upon blood in any measure. Well, now what's the point? At any rate, that device is quite necessary. Because it finally lets us use all those little runey things we've been picking up. I'm going to learn my lesson one day, I'm sure. No way of telling what's making those noises, since I'm pretty sure I killed everybody living in here. I feel like this might just be a doomed endeavor, because I think that to actually get a bite here, I'm going to have to wait for some time. And if I do that on stream, that's just boring as hell. Well, we are in a spooky dark house at the moment. I'm getting pretty tired of that, though, so I think it's time to head back. Alright, first things first, let's use our new toy. You have 4 rune slots. These essentially act like rings from the previous game. Only 3 slots can be utilized normally. The 4th slot is for a special kind of rune, the like of which we'll probably not see for quite some time. I'm going with Formless Odin, the Air rune, and Moon. These two give me more blood echoes, which is never bad. And the Formless Odin rune gives me a higher Quicksilver bullet max, which is wonderful. The 4th slot, the Oath memory, we have nothing for. It struck me that maybe using the rifle spear in all situations might not serve me that well, so I decided to upgrade the threaded cane a little bit, just for a backup. Now that we finally found some properly fitting gemstones, I can replace the Tear Blood gem. This one increases physical attack and also adds a slow poison effect. To be perfectly honest, I simply don't know how effective or ineffective that effect is. If we use poison knives as a baseline, it doesn't really tell us anything. Rest in peace. I'll go ahead and buy this. I believe that I equipped all of them. They've all got the red mark.
Very well. Farewell, good hunter. May you find your worth in the waking world.
Well, actually, the thing about the runes is that most of them are pretty hard to see to begin with, so don't worry about it. I put some points into strength because eventually I want to at least show off the tonitrus. Not right this instant, but I thought it would be helpful. Oh, that's a lucky drop. This is a little unfortunate. Yikes. They're too large. They can't go past each other.